instruction at a time, decodes it, and executes it on this machine. So that is what we meant. So essentially, the translator and the interpreter are also written in L0 and they execute on M0. Does it answer your question, Vishaka? Okay, I'm not getting a reply. Okay, yes, that's fine. Okay, so if you remember that, and then there was this machine M2. So this could understand a language L2, and how does it understand? Either you have a interpreter here which is running on M1, or you have a translator here which is running on M1, which can translate to L1, or you could have a translation here. You can have a translator here running translator which is running on M1 and which translates directly to L0. That is also possible. Or you could have an interpreter running here which could be directly running on this machine M0. Right? All those possibilities are there. Okay. So any questions there? Otherwise, I will. There was one question yesterday. I will take that. Okay, so any questions? Okay, so let me pose some questions to you and try to answer them. Okay, so questions. The first question is, okay, let me not pose it as a question. Let me write it as observations. Let me write it as observations. So the first observation is L0 is machine language. Is it possible to write a translator in N1 to convert from L2 to L0? Why not? Why not? It is perfectly all right, because so when you say you write a translator in L1, it means it executes on M1, right? So you have some software running on M1, and what is it doing? It is taking an input in L2 and converting to L0, right? So that is perfectly all right. Does it answer your question, Pulkit? Yes. Okay. So L0 is machine language. Ln, if you remember, we said that you can think of the last level as the nth level, right? So this is the nth level. So I will talk of this language Ln, right? So Ln is the problem-oriented level, right? So problem-oriented level. Problem-oriented level means that it is here where the user is setting. So the user is trying to program the machine in Ln, and L0 is what is the machine language. So that is the first observation. The second observation is that L1 and L0 should be similar or close. Can somebody guess why this is so? Can somebody guess why this should be so? Can somebody guess why do I write this observation? So that it doesn't get very good, so that the translation or the interpretation becomes easier. So for example, if you think of languages like Hindi and Marathi, right? They are closer. So probably if you want to write a translator, it would be easier. But if you talk of very dissimilar languages like some European languages or some other languages, probably the translation can be difficult. Very good. So L1 and L0 could be similar. The third observation I can make is some instructions in L1 and L0 can be the same. Right? So what we are saying is that L1 and L0 should be similar or close, and it is harmless So it doesn't so nobody stops you from saying that certain instructions can be the same, which essentially means that if you look at the translation part or the interpretation part, you don't require any, right? So again, an example of Hindi and Marathi would be apt. So there are certain sentences or words which are very similar, so you can understand that. Okay, then L2 can be a little more powerful than L1, and L3 still more than L2, and so on till you get Ln, which is apt. Right? So this is how you keep on doing it. So what was your intention? Your intention was to get a very powerful language called as Ln, right? But your machine was only supporting L0. Your machine was only supporting L0. So I think yesterday somebody had posed a question that why would you want levels like L1 and as M1 and M2 and M3 and M4? Well, it's not required. It's not required. But if you probably see that if you want to do a translation from Ln to L0, then the corresponding translator or the interpreter would become very complex, right? So generally, what you do is you try to make a language L1 which is slightly more powerful than L1. Then you can use the features of L1 to design a language called as L2. Then you can use the features of L2 to design a language called as L3, and so on. And you keep on doing it till you get a language which is called as Ln, right? So I hope this makes sense. And I think yesterday somebody had posed a question. I don't remember who, but I hope it answers his question as well, right? So it answers his question as well. Is that fine? Okay. So I think it was Nitin, right? Okay, that is fine, Nitin. So, okay. So what do I want to do? Okay, maybe. Okay, I want to build. So what do I want to do now? I want to design. So design a computer as a 6-level machine. So now you understand levels and program and other things, right? So what is my intention? Okay, my intention is to design a computer as a 6-level machine. There are a couple of things to note here. There will be only one physical computer, sometimes also called as bare metal. So there will be only one physical computer, also called as the bare metal, right? And generally what happens is that this computer understands a okay, a language called as machine language, and the corresponding level is called the instruction set architecture, or ISA level. Right? So what am I saying? I am saying that we will try to design a computer 6-level machine, and what we will assume that there is only one computer. So whenever I talk of a multi-level machine, I don't. I always believe that there is one box or one computer, and this computer that you get on the from the market understands a language which is usually called as the machine language. And if you think of levels, if you remember the previous diagram, and if you remember levels, so we can say that this is called as the ISA level, right? This is very popularly called as the ISA level. Why it is called as the ISA level? Because it understands. So at this level of the machine, so why it is called as the ISA level? Because at this level, the programmer sees an architecture called as the ISA, or instruction set architecture. In fact, it is very interesting to observe that if you look at this diagram itself, I can talk of the architecture of the machine at this level. There is another architecture at this level. There is another architecture at this level. There is another architecture at this level, and so on. What is the architecture? If you remember, architecture is nothing but all the attributes which are visible to the programmer at this level. And I hope you will appreciate that a programmer at a particular level is more or less worried about the language which this level can understand. Because these languages itself are different, and then other things could also be different, we say that the architecture at each level is different, right? So you will realize that there is one physical machine, right? There is a one physical machine, but it will have 6 different architectures, one per level. Right? So each level will have its own architecture, right? So now it all becomes fairly confusing in the sense you have just one machine, and you are saying you have 6 different architectures, right? So which architecture are you talking about? Well, if nothing is specified, architecture or computer architecture refers to ISA level. So this is what we are saying. What am I saying? I am saying that if nothing is specified, then we usually refer to the ISA level. Otherwise, I could be saying, can you tell me the architecture at this particular level, and so on, right? So I could be specifying the level, and I could be saying that this is what I mean by it, right? And you will realize that different levels are supported by full or partial translation or interpretation. Right? So again, a pretty loaded statement in the sense that the question is, how do you generate those levels, right? How do you generate those virtual machines? So those general virtual machines can be generated by either interpretation or by translation. This interpretation or this translation could either be a full translation or a partial one. We will see what that means, right? We will see what that means. So what I want to do now is I want to actually draw the diagram for you. I want to draw a nice diagram for you, and then I will explain what it means. So just give me some time to draw it. Just give me some time to draw it. Okay, so how do I draw? This is the Okay, so let me complete the diagram and then I can explain. So what is this? This is a 6-level computer. Okay. So yes. So what do we have here? So if you remember, a little while back, I said that the machine you get in the market is at this level. That is the microprocessor that you buy along with other things, right? So it is at this level, level 2, and it understands a language, or the architecture at this level is what is called as the ISA level. So this is called as the ISA level, and it understands an instruction set here, which defines also the language. So the language is machine language, popularly, which you know, right? All right. So this is the box that you get in the market. Now the question is, why so many levels? Well, if you remember, we said that you have a box, a machine, a physical machine, right, which can be abstracted. So you can think of these as levels, or you can think of them as virtual machines, and you will appreciate that each virtual machine would be trying to give a better interface to the user. Why? Because the user is sitting somewhere over here, right? The user is sitting somewhere over here. And what does the user want? The user wants a machine which is simpler, so not simpler, a machine which is more beautiful, a machine which is more powerful, and so on, right? On the other hand, you realize that a machine lower down the hierarchy would probably be simpler and not so powerful, and it can be ugly as well, depending on the kind of language it supports. All right. So let me start the explanation, see if it makes sense. So at this level, at the digital logic level, what you actually see, what you see here are probably gates, right? Or what are called as logic gates, right? And you understand that you can combine gates to form memories, a 1-bit memory, then you can combine 1-bit memory to build bigger memories. You can use logic gates to build ALUs and so on, right? So here you talk of inputs like 1 and 0 to logic gates, and with those logic gates you can build your entire computer. You will realize this level of the computer is a very low level, in the sense you work at the level of binary logic, right? Or digital logic, right? Usually, right? So you work at the level of just a minute. Yeah. So you work at the level of digital logic, and you have finally realized a computer. But this is more in the domain of electronics engineering, in the sense they figure out how they can combine logic gates. So you will realize that even logic gates are made out of transistors. So right. So if somebody wants to dig down and he says, "How do you build this level?" Well, there's a level beneath this which is made up of transistors and so on. And then if you ask how do you make transistors, you can form lower levels, you go into solid state physics and so on. But anyway, we don't go into all that, right? So we start from the logic, digital logic level. So here the language is inputs to gates, and you form this, right? And you give it any input, it can probably generate outputs. There is a level above this which is called as the microarchitecture level. Well, here you see what is called as the data path. Data path essentially means that here you see something called as registers, here you see something called as ALU, here you see something called as buses, and so on. So the interconnection of registers, buses, and ALU is called sometimes also called as the data path. So what you see here? You see here a data path, and you see here certain instructions which can move things on the data path. So for example, you could be saying, can you get this from this register to this register? Can I take the input of these two registers and add them on the ALU and take the output to a third one, and so on, right? You will realize this microarchitecture level has instructions which can be used at this level. If you ask how is this level implemented, well, this level is implemented in hardware, in the sense that the translation to this level, that is from the when you give inputs to the data path, and those inputs directly go. Just a minute, the video has frozen. Yeah, so the inputs directly go to the logic gates, and then it gets executed, and that is why hardware is written here. So you can think of the interpretation happening in hardware. So we can say hardware does interpretation, right? Interpretation. I can say something like this. So the hardware does interpretation, in the sense that the hardware actually executes it. If you see, there is another level on top of it, which we said as the ISA level, right? So this is the very popular ISA level, or the machine language level. So here, what do I see? Here I see the machine language. Here I see the machine language. I see memory. I see I/O devices. I see all that, right? So the combination of all that becomes the architecture of this machine. And here, how can I program? I can program in the machine language. Now, let me give you an example. Suppose you think of adding two registers, right? So there could be an instruction here at level 2. Yeah. So there could be an instruction at level 2 which says add the value of registers A and B and push the result to C. Now what happens is, this instruction, which looks like one instruction at this level, at the microarchitecture, it might correspond to 3 or 4 simpler tasks, right? So you will realize that the one instruction here, if you want to implement, you might require to do 4 steps. It's something like an algorithm. So like an algorithm for an instruction, right? Now the question is, how do you do that? Well, there are 2 ways to do that. One is, again, the hardware does the interpretation, which is called as direct execution. Or here you can have a program. This is a program to execute one ISA level instruction or machine language instruction. Because it just executes one instruction, it is sometimes also called as a microprogram, in contrast to a program. So in that sense, the interpretation is done by a microprogram. So usually when you go to the market, right, it is this level of the machine that you get. This and these levels are within the machine, and you realize that this level is interpreted in hardware, and this level is also interpreted in hardware. There's a possibility that this level could be interpreted in software as well. Okay, but these levels are interpreted. if you don't understand this microprogram right now, you need not worry, because we will have a very detailed discussion on how to implement architectures, right? So when we are comfortable with what is an architecture, we will have a very detailed discussion on how to implement a microprocessor. So probably there we can talk of these two methods. But for the timing, this is it. All right. If you observe at the ISA level, the machine language is numeric. In fact, at all these levels, the languages are numeric. Numeric means that if I look at an instruction here, it could be like 1011, 10000001, and so on, which essentially means that this language, first of all these languages are not very suitable for humans. That is one thing. The other thing that you will realize is that even though you have got a machine with a particular machine language, this machine is not very powerful. Why do I say that? Because there are certain limitations. For example, you can only execute one program at a time. If you look at memory, the memory cannot be shared amongst people. If you look at devices cannot be shared, and so on, right? But if you observe you observe that nowadays when you work, you run 4 programs concurrently and so on. So what do you want? And you want some kind of a manager who manages everything. So you can just say you can just say print hello for me, and that fellow should be able to print hello for you without you worrying about what is the interrupt number and what is the buffer size and how often do you poll and whether you are writing to a block device or a character device and so on. So you need not worry about all that, which means you want a more powerful and a better machine. You want a better abstraction. Now the question is, how do you do that? So you take this level, you abstract to a better level. And who does that abstraction? There is a software, an interpreter, which is called as an operating system. Right? So there is an operating system which sits on this level. And what does this fellow do? This gives you a better machine. Right? This fellow gives you. So suddenly here you talk of processes and you talk of files and you talk of address spaces and so on. Right? So you talk of certain better things. Right? And you realize that this is a level which is much better. Right now, the interpreter is called as an operating system. Why it's called? Can somebody guess why this is called as partial interpretation? Can somebody put in the chat? Why do I write partial interpretation here? Can somebody help me with that? Anybody would want to answer that? Or you can unmute and answer. No problem. Am I audible? Okay. So I have a couple of answers. So Gaurav says it is not fully higher language, but not machine language as well. Okay, because we can execute programs at our will. Maybe the languages are similar. Okay, so I take his answer to be more correct. So Gautam. So what Gautam is saying, that when I say partial interpretation, I mean the instructions at the operating system machine level and the instructions at the ISA level, many instructions are the same. See, just by saying that this is a different level, it doesn't mean that all instructions have to be different. Which means that if you so essentially, if you have a machine language instruction here and the same machine language instruction is here, then there is no need to interpret it. It can be directly fed for execution. On the other hand, if there is a different instruction, you can do a kind of an interpretation and the operating system can come into the picture. So that is the reason why this is called as partial interpretation. So, which means that many instructions here and here are the same, right? So that is what happens. So you got a better machine. You got a better machine. You will realize that even now the language is still numeric. Numeric means consists of numbers, right? The language at this level is still numeric, and you will realize numeric languages are very unsuitable for humans, right? So humans are not able to manipulate them Very well. So what do you want? You want a symbolic language for either an ISA level or the OS level. I think you have done a course on microprocessors, right? Have you done a course on microprocessors? You understand assembly? I think you might have done DCMP. I don't know. Yes, you have done it, right? So you understand assembly. Very good, very good. So assembly, you will realize, is nothing but a symbolic language. It is a symbolic language, and usually there is a one-to-one mapping between the symbolic language and the ISA level or the OS level. So the question is, how do you do that? Now you realize there is a change, a transition here, right? So from level 3, there is a transition. What is the transition? First of all, the language, all the languages here were numeric. Now this language suddenly becomes symbolic. And you realize that when you want to implement this level, you implement it by translation rather than by interpretation. So all the lower levels were interpreted. All the lower levels were interpreted, whereas usually this level is translated, and the piece of software which does the translation is sometimes called as the assembler. So what does the assembler do? It takes a symbolic language and generates an equivalent numeric language. So this is all it does. But suddenly, because it is symbolic, it is easier for humans to work at this level, right? So humans generally work at this level. Generally, system programmers would work at all these lower levels, and application programmers would work from this level and up. So now what have we got? We have got a machine which is having a symbolic language, which is good for humans. There's also a machine which is powerful because it talks of processes, it talks of files, it talks of address spaces, it talks of protection, it talks of fairness, and so on, right? You can run multiple processes at the same time. So you got both a machine which is powerful and which is easier for humans to work on. So this is the level 4, right? This is the 4th level. But you realize that when people want to really use a machine, they would want to use it for some purpose, right? So for example, you want to compute, or you want to do logic, or you want to do something else, right? So you realize there are a lot of popular choices. So you have things like C, C++, Java, Python, and so on, right? Many things, right? Etc. Right? So people prefer to work in their language of choice. Now the question is, it's one machine, right? It's one machine. What do you do? Again, so you can work on your choice, provided you translate it to the ISA level. How do you do that? You do it by translation, which is usually done by a compiler. This is why I say usually by a compiler, because certain languages are inherently compiled. But if you look at languages like Java, right? Java is first compiled to some intermediate code, which is for an abstract architecture, and then it is interpreted, right? So depends on so this language, this level is compiled. So to summarize, what have we done? We have designed a machine. Just a minute. Okay, what have we done? We have designed a machine at 6 levels. Well, it could have been designed at 7 levels also, 10 levels also, lesser number of levels also, right? But this is the usual design. This makes sense because these levels are usually present in most machines. These levels are usually present in most machines. I will summarize. So, okay. So levels 3 and below, right? The languages are numeric. Level 4 and above, the language is symbolic. Level 4 and above are translated. Level 3 and below are usually interpreted. Level 3 and below is not suitable for average programmers. So they are like system programmers. Level 4 and above can be used by normal programmers. So programmers can go ahead and write their code. All right. So does this make sense? Does this make sense? Okay. If this makes sense, can somebody tell me if you are a user, right? If you are a user of a machine, right? And say you are programming in some language, say C++, something, right? Do you really need to worry about levels 0 to level 4? Should you be aware of level 0 to level 4? Yes. So I think a lot of people have got it, right? No. So basic knowledge is fine, of course. Basic knowledge means that some knowledge. But you will realize that because you are working on this machine, and if you know all the features of this machine, it is only the features of this level that you can access. So you really need not worry about whether there are 4 levels or 10 levels and so on. You simply can be agnostic of all of this. You need not know all this. Similarly, if you are somebody who is coding in assembly, you just need to know this level. You need not worry about other things, right? So very good. So I think a lot of people have understood it, right? So then the question that I pose is, why do you think I need to study these levels, and why do you think you need to read about organization or computer organization? Organization, if you remember, was implementation of an architecture, right? So why do you think somebody needs to? So this is still the motivation part that we are covering, right? If we need to develop a new language, okay, to understand how the computer works, okay, taken as an answer. Still, I'm looking for a better answer. I'm looking for a better answer because we are studying computer science. Okay, okay, okay. Still a better one. To develop a new level below, if we need to do some task which can be, see, once you are working at a particular level, right, you really don't care about what lower levels are there. You simply don't require them. And of course, levels above are also not required. So if we need to do some tasks which can be done by below levels, you will never means working on an architecture. No, so computer organization doesn't means working on an architecture. It means implementing an architecture, right? Computer organization means implementing an architecture, right? So I'm still looking for a better answer. So why to study all these levels and so on? Yeah, so I think I will take his answer, Dhanvijay. Okay, so the first thing is that all the other answers which people gave, like we are studying computer science and to understand how it works, all those answers are correct. They are not. They are not wrong answers, right? Uh, they are not wrong answers, right? But you will appreciate a couple of things. The first thing is that if somebody says, "Can you tell me the architecture of this machine?" he is referring to this level because he has not put any qualifiers. If he says, "Can you tell me the architecture of the machine at level 3?" then he is referring to this. Or he says, "Architecture of the machine at level 2," he is referring to this, and so on. Usually, if you look at the average garden variety kind of users sit here. So users are worried about the architecture at this level, right? Users are, yes, exactly. So users are worried about the architecture at this level. But you will realize if you want to implement this architecture, you need to implement this translator, the complexity of the translator will depend on the power or the strength of this level. Similarly, if I talk of implementing this level, it will depend on the complexity of this level and the strength of this level and so on. So in other words, you can say that this level is implemented assuming this as a baseline. This level is implemented assuming this is a baseline and so on. Assuming that you are doing these levels, of course, there are other ways also which possible. Anyway, so that is one thing to understand. So if somebody says that, can you figure out how to implement this level? Probably you need to understand this level. And then if somebody says, how do you implement this level? You need to understand this level and so on. So in that sense, they are fairly well related. So that is one thing. The other thing that you will realize is that, so it doesn't matter which lower levels are here, but you will realize if this level is efficient, right? This level will be faster. If this level is powerful and efficient, this level can be faster and powerful and so on. So I can just give you some examples. So for example, if you use a TTL logic here or a CMOS logic here, you will realize it doesn't really matter. Both will give you an ALU or both will give you a memory and so on. But you realize that a TTL or a CMOS logic probably can have a difference in execution speeds, right? A difference in execution speeds. Or for that matter, if the architecture is pipelined or if it has a faster clock and so on, right? So what we are trying to say is that the implementation can decide the performance. So I think somebody says we can make efficient machines. So the efficiency of the machine changes, right? Or somebody says a better machine, right? So that is so to summarize, you need to understand these levels, which could be called as organization if you want to look at how an architecture is implemented. And the organization will actually help you decide how fast or slow a machine works. And then you, as somebody said, which we took jokingly, somebody said we are studying computer science. Well, in a sense, it is true. In the sense that if you look at a computer science student, probably in the last semester you were here, so you were worrying about how to combine gates to build memories and registers and ALUs or adders and subtractors and multipliers. In this semester, you will probably worry about the microarchitecture level and the ISA level, which is what is referred to as architecture and organization. In the next semester, possibly you will be worried about programming the machine at this level. So you will worry about how you write the operating system and probably assemblers as well. And then probably in a later semester, you would worry about how to write a compiler so that you can execute a machine. So in that sense, if you look at a computer science student goes through all the phases or all the levels of the machine so that you understand the machine fully well. And depending on the interest, depending on the need, you can work at any level. And you, because you understand the implementation, you can also figure out how you can speed up or where's the bottleneck and so on. So that completes the motivation, right? That completes the motivation. Okay, so motivation is complete. So motivation is complete. Any questions? I can take it. Otherwise, we'll take a maybe a 10-minute break and then come back. Any questions here? Any questions here? Okay, so what
Sir, some of operating systems are themselves written in assembly, right? Isn't assembly level below than operating system?
Very good, very good, very good. So what Pulkit is asking, is that aren't operating systems written in assembly? Well, to answer his question, this computer, what you see, the OS level is just above the ISA level. So if somebody asks you how to write the operating system, there is absolutely no choice, but in this model, you will write it in machine language. Can you appreciate that, Pulkit?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, right. But suppose this assembly level was just above this ISA level. So what you actually have is you have a one-to-one mapping between assembly language and machine language. Then if the OS level was write your operating system in machine assembly language, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so that is also possible. So depending on how the levels are placed, you can do that. In fact, I think some of you who might have read something, you will realize that even some operating systems are written in the C language, or some operating systems are written in other languages as well, right? So in that case, you will have a lower level, which is a level which understands the C language. So the C language is getting compiled to ISA level, and your operating system is written using the C language. That is also possible, right? So it depends on how the levels are placed in a particular computer, right? Does it answer your question?
Yes, sir. So sometimes level 3 and 4 can be interchanged. That's what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Depends on a particular computer. So, for example, I gave you an example that sometimes, in fact, most of the operating systems are written in the language C, right? In the C language. So, in which case the C compiler would be written. In which case the C compiler would either be written in machine language or the assembly language, provided those levels are below the C language. And then your operating system is higher up than the C language. So that is possible. It is not a full C language. It can be a subset of the C language, right? So there are different ways of designing a computer. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, so the time is around 2:58. We will come back at around say 3:10. So we take a 10-minute break. So it's 2:59. We will come back at 3:10.